The first part of God of War turned out to be a significantly cool game, given the developers at the time had not proven themselves in any way. And since the money floated with molten silicon, a continuation immediately flew into development, which today we will analyze. So let's go see how worse or better the continuation of a cool game about a white-skinned black man turned out to be. The first thing I would like to pay attention to is the release date of the game and the platform on which it was released. A delightful 2007 is already chipping in the yard, the first Uncharted is tearing up and throwing the third PlayStation, and the second God of War, which is the same exclusive, they decided to release on the outdated platform. And it's certainly great that Sony continues to support the past generation, especially considering how much the third PlayStation cost on release, but it seems to me that the game with spectacular battles with the huge epic gods is not a game that should have been left on the last generation of consoles. The game begins with the fact that Kratos was too carried away with his war games, and he was told that enough had already been played and enough. And he, as a true resident of 2007, in order to avoid showdowns, decided to go again and throw himself off a great height, and there was water again. Where they teach him how to suicide works. A little later we were introduced to the combat system, which remained exactly the same as it was before, only with new weapons added and old one removed, and it's still the same high as was before, but at the same time a little updated. And now I remember how some school at Ragnarok for being the similar for the last part. At the same time, this game, which also improved in everything, is still the same first game, everyone idolizes it. What kind of picky people went, I don't understand. A life hack for those people who will ever be beaten by the God of War with the Sword of Chaos. Just sit down and he can do to you anything. Almost instantly we were launched into the battle with the boss, who is such a fool, instead of hacking this catapult, just grabbed the pebbles flying out of it. Apparently wood is the same material that this statue is not able to break. But otherwise this one and all of the other boss fights just go bigger, cooler and more epic. And this time there are no three of them like a first game, but a lot more many, each of which is noticeably different from each other, which is really very cool. Dodges are all assigned to the same right stick, which is still an inconvenient as is before. And also beside of this, there is another problem with dodges, namely the inability to use them at all time, how the hit animation is played, which is very annoying at times. Quick time events for some unknown reason continue to exist in this game, and in them they are still, if you are even a little late with pressing, you will lose and review this entire cutscene will happen to you again. Cutscenes, by the way, are not only those from QTE, but also the usual ones that are on the engine. They are not skipped in any way, because when you replay for the 20th time a moment where the checkpoint throws you back to the cutscene, it is very exciting for me to watch it over and over again. Perhaps pre-rendered ones are not skippable either, but I did not check this. Can't remember what it was like in the first game, but their save locations look like they were seamlessly stolen from Prince of Persia. By the way, a small scene to the emulator. After a while he simply stopped seeing my memory card and I could do nothing about it. This is followed by another scene to the emulator about the fact that I cannot immediately load the save from it while the game is turned off. You must first go into the game and only then press F3 so that it loads. Platforming hasn't gone away either, and with this static camera coupled with Kratos' lack of shadow, it becomes quite problematic in jumping or on such narrow platforms not fucking fall from the crotch. And it's okay when the platform is small, but sometimes you will hit the big ones, because you can see in advance where Kratos can land. And also grabbing ledges. Kratos decided not to learn this ability. By the way, yes, in 2007 game the developers was not able to make a shadow. 90-something Crash Bandicoot nervously smoking on the sidelines. No matter how long I stand here, this boss will not even think of hitting past me. In the same way, it is not best tactic in the battle. This boss, by the way, can be called Achilles in reverse. Instead of heel, his fist in the weakest part of his body. How did all these people manage to stay inside the statue while it was being shacked in a different direction during the battle? Yes, and I'm wondering how does the statue manage to move this body at all when from the inside its structure consists entirely of wood and which is not designed for its body part to move at least somehow.
Placing all of his godly power into the weapon had rendered Kratos mortal.
The off-screen booming of this game received more screen time than even Kratos himself. Okay, I went a little too far, but there is just a lot of here. Broken armor does not fall off like that.
Why? Why would you betray me?
It is you who would
betray me.
And you helped him in this by providing the sword that you gave him. Why? And yes, Kratos again betrayed by gods. The first time did not teach him anything. I didn't play the third game, but somehow I had suspicions premonition about what would happen there. And why did all this confusion come about? Kratos just wanted to fight a little longer. Why did he want it? Who knows, but because of this he is even ready to die.
You will pay for this, Zeus. Be certain of that.
Will pay for wanting to protect Olympia from your overacting. We have such a bad Zeus. Why switch from pre-render to the scene in the engine to then switch back to pre-render? You didn't have enough money to a piece of a stage?
His death was something that I could not allow.
How convenient that there is always someone in a hand who can revive you from death. Why am I constantly dying in the gameplay and instead of respawning in the same place I reload the checkpoint?
Your only hope is to find the Sisters of Fate and travel back through time to the moment Zeus betrayed you.
This is only the second game and they already resorted to one of the most overused time travel plots. These are 2D clouds in a 2007 game. Quite often when we enter a new location, the camera will pass through the entire territory, which firstly is pointless. I will run and explore it anyway, and secondly such a scene are also not skippable, and therefore whether I want it or not I still have to watch it. The snow is just a tad less annoying than the rain in GTA 3 Remaster, which sucks anyway.
My only crime was helping mankind. When I took the fires of Olympus to the mortals, Zeus considered it a betrayal. As punishment, he made me mortal and condemned me to be savagely consumed every day by this cursed bird. And then, with the fall of night, I am healed.
In the first game I didn't really notice this, but here quite often moments from the Greek mythology slip through, presented from a slightly different point of view and in darker style, which I really liked. I need to throw this poor guy down to the fire, but I can't do it with these fingers breaking because I can't. If Kratos ceased to be a god and all his strength was taken away from him, how can he still lift such heavy blocks in his hands? How did shooting a man cause the chain to be cut? And if the chain is so weakly, why couldn't Kratos cut it when I use my swords on the finger? What is he sliding on? Kratos is tormented there, straightening himself to the both doors remain open, and he can go through them, but he can get it right that he could easily squeeze through all of these holes and would not have to suffer and solve this puzzle. And the puzzles here are still not stupid as the first game. They just left you in the room, they don't give you any clues, and you yourself must understand that these bodies that hang on the ceiling need to be thrown down. One of them will remain lying, and it will need to be pulled up to that platform so that the door remains open. Well, I was so mega attentive that I threw off these bodies and did not pay attention to the fact that one of the bodies did not break, but remained lying on the floor and for a very long time could not understand what to do. That on the one hand the fault of my blindness and inattention, and on the other hand this body was so small and the camera hung so far from it that people playing at the time on the tube TV could not see all this something was lying there. And only after I find this body and picked it up, they wrote me how to pick up the body. A very useful hint you showed it me right at time. Then I went to the bridge which you need to kick with your foot so that it goes down. Only the kick button did not appear when I approached it, which provoked another half minute of misunderstanding what to do. Something tells me that this child turned into the clutter after such a post. This wall is so fragile that it cracks the scream of this stripper. Then why can I break it with my sword? Quick time events on the sticks are still the same uncomfortable shit. And this one with the circle hammering, if you don't start pressing the same millisecond when it appears, then you will instantly fall it. I need to put the key in the hole before it closes, and I can show it even if the hole is already almost completely closed. The key will still squeeze through. Kratos just got the ability to slow down time, which is now borrowed from Prince of Persia, which would not be needed if the game has a fast run button, but Kratos is not a runner, he's a bodybuilder. Where should he run? For a long time I could not find the statue, since this hidden button a corner, and it was only possible to see if going straight to it so that the camera would move away.
Gain control of your thread, and you will be able to return to the moment when Zeus betrayed you.
She's been talking about Zeus betraying him so often that I'm starting to suspect that Kratos has multiple sclerosis and his woman remind him from time to time why he does all of this so that he does not eventually forget. Why is this a quick time event if it could easily be made into the gameplay?
Do you remember that day, Spartan? I will never forget that day.
I will never forget how one arrow fired incarnated a man's whole head.
No, not you again!
This is a man from a ship who was eaten by a snake with climbing sign. That's what I call the most random cameo in the history of mankind. I received a new weapon and again, when I had it in my hands, the sort of chaos that were glued to my hands evaporated somewhere. What are you blowing if your helmet covers your mouth? Kratos could easily squeeze between these teeth and he would not have to win the circle to go from the other side. What's the problem with throwing this guy over the bars? Okay, what's the problem with picking up floating body parts from that water and putting them on the platform? There are quite a lot of them floating there, so there can be enough to get the gravity we need. The best voice acting in the history of mankind. Kratos is a cool, powerful man who easily lifts his structures with one hand, even without eating concentrated milk, cannot climb a small ledge of a person on him. Kratos is such a powerful man that after he crumbled into a stone, he was able to return back on his original form. Having jumped on his wall, Kratos changed his weapons to the Sword of Chaos, so he could move along this wall, which is logical. But after he got off this wall of tears, I would like to have in my hand the weapon that I used, but no one will return it. This is not an isolated case. Very often in the game the hero simply decided on his own that he needed to switch to standard weapon. Also, I can only have two weapons on a quick switch. To select some third one, I need to go to the menu and switch there. What was the problem with assigning them all to the right trigger so that they are all at my fingertips at once? The spinner doesn't have a handle, so that I can speed it normally. But right here you can see a lion sword, which I could put in the spinner and use it to twist it. But the developers did not foresee such an outcome of events. His moans more and more make me think that he has some problems with designation, and right now he is trying very hard to squeeze something out himself on the go. As cool as this new hammer of ours is, it has one big flaw. When we have in our hands, I lose the ability to dodge, instead of which on the right stick now hangs the ability of summon demons, which are so useless that even a bra for the first breast size is more useful. I probably screwed up some bullshit in the first game, but that jellyfish head is actually a useful thing if you pump it up a bit. Maybe it was finalized here, or maybe I didn't notice the full, but something like this. But water jumping is still a water jumping. This space is already enough for me to squeeze into it, but I won't be able to squeeze into it. Just like in the first game, ray tracing gets stuck here too. In the world of God of War, the air has the same hardness as the air, and also has a lot of dust. There is no other way to explain this movement of the cobblestone. That's what, but I can forgive this game in any way. Two men are alone in bathhouse, and none of them even thought to undress and grab onto a Oh, I didn't do it on purpose. But in general, yes, with nudity in this game, everything is not as rosy in the first game. It is, but there is a very little of it, and more than half of these boobs belong to the huge fat freaks. Kratos is so evil that he can't even hang a human shield. Listening to these beautiful sounds, I can't just do anything about it. I don't know why all of a sudden these columns all at once decided to start falling, but in all turned out to be so beautifully that I don't even give a shit. This woman have the cutest reaction to being hit by a sword. Judging by the duration of our flight, the deepest basement in history of mankind awaits us below. The wings of Icarus are the most useless wings in history of all wing creatures, with which I can only glide and rise only a few meters. How did he manage to fly with them to the sun? Kratos seems to have just had an orgasm from burning in lava. And now I flew into the anus. And you'll forgive me, but I'll not able to insert the word anus into each of my subsequent remarks until I get to this anus. So I think no one will be surprised by what I will say now, but I must say that I like being in the anus, in the sense of this location is beautiful and not what you thought. But no matter how beautiful it was, I got stuck in this anus for a decent amount of time, and all thanks to the dumbest mechanic that I have ever seen in games. I'm talking about a jump with wings, with which I kind of fly to the edge of the platform, but in order for Kratos to grab this edge, you need to enter the menu in flight, switch to another weapon and exit. And it only works half the time. As proof that I'm not lying, I looked this in the walkthrough, and to be honest, got a little sick of how such crap could come up with a level designer. And what does this shit in the game will meet far from the ones? This is probably the children 2007 who didn't have the internet. His hands are fucked. Login button pressed is also something that this game does not always do well.
Taking the blade of Olympus back and driving it into Zeus's heart. It holds the power I once wielded as the god of war!
After this game I had serious concerns about Kratos' oral cavity, which after these constant and meaningless screams will tear the fuck up a little more. If this thug is the only side of Kratos, and just like he wants to death of Zeus, then why did he send these demons to me immediately after our conversation? After such a flight, Kratos' ass should have become the same turn hole as that of underage pensioners of the Catholic Church. This monk sitting on the button that must be pressed to open the gate, as we will see later, does not really want to help Kratos in reading the book, the language of which he does not understand. So in connection with this I had one question. Why the hell does he not get off this button when Kratos is outside? But anyway, the mechanics of getting this guy to read is just divine. But why did Kratos become so weak all of a sudden that such an action for him is something that needs to be stressed out? And also how and why this monk did not die after a few blows is not entirely clear. And also who fumbles tell me what kind of ice is so powerful and impenetrable that it is able to withstand blows from very weapons. And among other things, this ice has some kind of mutagen in it, which enveloped the skin of the one who is in, due to which someone is not subject to fire.
Ghost of Sparta? It was foretold that you would come. I will not let you reach the sisters.
Close the mirror though, which you can get back in time and prevent you from killing yourself.
No, Kratos! This will be the end of us all!
If this is the end of all of us, then why go alone with him and read this if you die anyway, based on your words? Of course I understand everything, but I do not understand one thing. Where have all the nerves ending gone from my thumb pressing the circle, and why can't I feel it after the game? How strong does this skeleton need to be in order for self-trapping to withstand all this gigantic mechanism? If all this time I was standing on those spikes, they would have killed me, despite the fact that the distance between them is such that not only Kratos, the most iron body positive woman would fit there. Aside from the fact that this texture on the second PlayStation are quite soapy, I could not find a statue of several minutes running past it. Another hackneyed and cliched game in the moment called Lava Location. Well, at least not the final boss fight. The battle is of course quite creatively staged, but how could this dude not understand who was fighting him if there are a huge window on the right which, well, at least a little B should eliminate at least a small piece Kratos.
What treachery is this?
There is nothing interesting under the skirt of Zeus.
Zeus.
I wonder if I'll ever get tired of taking snapshot of Kratos' epic face. Many will ask, why is Kratos not on fire? Everything is actually very simple. By passing fire through his anus, Kratos created his fire resistance from within, which keeps his body in hot state, as a result of which the body thinks that it is already on fire, and therefore does not ignite additionally from external source. My statement is also confirmed by the fact that at the end of the fight, Kratos jumped into the water, thereby restoring his temperature to the factory settings, and relaxing his anus so that all fire left inside flows into the water, and does not start a fire from the inside. And there is no longer a guard or firefly opposition. Proven hack, don't hesitate and use. Who the hell came up with the idea of putting an object for interaction in the air so that I would break all my fingers trying to jump in this circle and press it? Yes, it depends on me when she does into the state, but no matter how I tried, she always showed down somewhere in the air. Are you alright? Did this sister run off the ink of their their memory printer, or what is Kratos up without their red tattoo keys. Now we are fighting on a sword in the location where the final battle from the first game takes place, and it's a shame that during this battle there is no Kratos with arrows in the background. I can break the mirror only when it becomes cracked. Why can I break it when it's the normal state? I almost forgot to mention a favorite technique of the developers of those times for trashing a passage called the close passage, which will open only when I kill everyone in the location. If it might seem to you that the Photoshop zoom of Kratos in the first game looks so crooked, then here you are, hold the invisible zoom of Zeus, which is not inferior in crookedness to the original. As cool as the final battle with Zeus was, those timing on the QTE scenes are just stupid. How blunt must this sword be, or how blunt must this Zeus be in order to hold the point of the sword with his hands, from which even blood does not come out in this hand?
Just as Zeus was compelled to destroy his father Kronos, you are compelled to do the same. No son should destroy his own father.
No.
Of course, I understand that you do not always follow Greek mythology, but that's all why is Zeus the father of Kratos if Zeus did not have a son with that name. And the Kratos who was in Greek mythology, I don't know if he somehow connected with this Kratos or not, but that Kratos' father was not Zeus and Palant. It is likely that I sucked the nitpick of my finger too much, but still it triggered me a little, and I probably trigger you, so write the comment that I puffed I allow. Kratos entered the time machine again, did not quite understand why, but enlisting the support of Gaia, he went to the attack of Zeus and his gang. And I wondering why he doesn't go into the mirror so many times, so that he and his teeth himself a bunch of times, so that it was a little easier to fill up Zeus.
I bring the destruction of Olympus!
I've never seen a game use a baiting sequel like this with a cut ending. On the one hand, it's certainly bad. If the game had failed and the continuation had gone into development, we would not have seen the ending. But on the other hand, this allows to make us the final battle with Zeus already a new generation of consoles, with cooler graphics and much more of lesser scale of this case. I probably will not put a scene, and I will hope that the final button which was transferred to the next game will not turn out to be so crappy as in the Game of Thrones, where the same thing was done with a cut ending. But even though we didn't see the ending here, the game still turned out to be mega cool as surprises at the first game in everything except the boobs. It's a shame of course that on a second and not on a third PlayStation, but even so, everything looks at play cool, powerful and epic. I can't wait to touch the third game and see the ending, but before that I will have to touch the two PSP games that came out before. Or it's better to go straight to the 3. Write recommend in the comment, at the same time subscribing to the channel.